Hello, everyone. I hope everyone had a great week last week. Last week, we really talked about the history of special education and how it has evolved over time. We also took time to really look in depth at special education law, some of the case laws that have changed and impacted special education as we know today. So, last week was really heavy in the content. So this week, it's going to be sort of fluid. We are flowing still with the special education law, but specifically, I want us to concentrate on IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. We're going to be looking at the major provisions of IDEA, what it is, defining it. We're also going to be looking at the Section 504 plan and what that means. So, whenever we have content, I always want you to make sure that you go to overview, outcome, and keywords. This is very important because this really sets you up for our course objectives. We look at what we're going to accomplish for the week, we look at our assignments. We're also looking at any of those key terms and concepts that will be important for us to understand the content a little bit further. So, at the top, I always give you kind of an overview of the course outcomes that are accomplished. We also give you an overview of what we're doing because if you're like me, you want to know what I'm going to be doing, where am I headed. So, this week, like I said, we're going to be looking at legislation and litigation and how they have affected special education. We will be looking at IDA and Section 504. Now, here are your objectives for the week. I want you to identify the six core principles of IDEA. I want you to identify the major provisions of IDEA. I want you to identify the laws and their impact on the education of students with disabilities. I also want you to learn about legislation and litigation that have affected special education and understand and appreciate the history and origins of special education. So those are your learning objectives. So please keep these in mind as you're going through the content this week. So you do have some learning tasks, some reading. You are going to be reading chapter 1 in your exceptional learners textbook. You're also going to be reading chapter 5 in that supplemental PDF that I introduced to you last week. So, something to keep in mind is the supplemental is a supplement, right? Because there's no perfect one textbook that's going to have everything you need about special education. Keep in mind, this is an introductory course, right? So we're just at the tip of the iceberg of everything that you need to know. So it's introducing you to a lot of content. So I supplement with videos and web page and links because I want you to get the most you can out of the course content. So that chapter 5 is really going to supplement nicely with our goals and objectives this week. I also have a couple videos for you to watch, as well as a Nearpod presentation, which will be a little bit more interactive than you would say a PowerPoint would be. So, how are you going to be submitting assignments? Well, you will be doing a discussion board for your main assignment this week. So, there will not be a Dropbox. Um, and you will be completing something for a study tool, just like I had you do with the Iris module. So you will complete it, but you're not going to actually submit it. So the only thing that's going to actually be assessed this week is going to be a discussion board. You are going to have to submit two service learning, pre service learning documents, if you will, two teams, one notebook. So you will be submitting your proof of liability insurance to teams. So this is going to be either purchasing your Aon insurance through the cashier's office at Water State, or you can submit proof of STA membership. Now, remember, if you had purchased liability insurance, say you had service learning last semester in the fall, that still is good for this whole fiscal year. So if you purchased it in the fall, it should still be good now. Same with your STA membership. So if you're not sure, just email me and then we can check on that with the service learning coordinator. So those two items need to be submitted. So you will have to submit your proof of liability insurance as well as your background check. How will you be assessed? Well, you will be assessed by completing your child outcomes discussion. Another thing that I want you to know is that you have some Quizlets. Now, these Quizlets are feedback for you. They're assessing your own knowledge. You do not turn them in. They are letting you see kind of what you know, maybe some things you need to spend more time on. Underneath here is going to really be the keywords and concepts that are going to help you navigate as you go through the content. So we have 6 core principles of IDA. Okay, so these are the 6 pillars, right, that embody IDA that help support teachers when they have children with disabilities. All children have to make sure that they are meeting their needs and progress and goals are shown. So these 6 pillars, these legislation pillars, are really going to be the core of IDEA. This I will be testing you on the quiz, so make sure that you know these. The individualized education program, IEPs, sometimes referred to as plan. You have Free Appropriate Public Education Act. What is that? Least restrictive environment, appropriate evaluation, parent and teacher participation, and procedural safeguards. We also have what we call the major provisions of IDEA, and there are 5 here listed. So I want you to make sure that you know those. We have the No Child Left Behind Act, the Every Student Succeeds Act, also known as ESSA, and then, of course, Section 504. So please make sure that you are thinking about these keywords and content, and you will see them in the content and as you're reading. So I said you would have a presentation, but it's not going to be a PowerPoint presentation. This presentation is what we call a Nearpod. So what you're going to do to join, it's really easy. You're going to, in a Google search, you're going to put join.nearpod.com. And when you get in there, it's going to ask you to join with the code. So you will just enter this code and it will let you be inside the presentation. The presentation is more interactive. It has quizzes, it has videos, web pages. There's lots of different ways for you to get feedback and interact about your knowledge. So make sure that you join and watch that presentation. The next thing that I want you to do is you're going to be reading again out of your chapter 1 textbook, Exceptional Learners, and you're also going to be reading out of your PDF guide. So the 2 videos I talked about that you're going to be watching give you a deeper understanding of IDA and what it's looking like for individuals who have disabilities 40 years later. So we have 2 videos here. They are they're pretty good. They're not long, but because I didn't feel like one would give you enough information, I included 2 for you there. Um, they were by Samuel Mies. He is very good. Please watch him. Now, one thing I did want to note is I have some people who are not visual learners, so they don't necessarily like videos. They're more of a read write. So if you don't like watching videos, I have included the transcripts here for you. So if you'd rather just read the transcript, they're available. They're listed under each video. So you should be able to see that there. And the next thing you're going to be doing is looking at what we call TEIS, and it's a brochure. So TEIS stands for Tennessee Early Intervention System. And this is just something that I thought would be a good supplemental resource because it's related to not only to our state, but also the Department of Education, because it's really going to provide you an overview of what the program does, how it supports teachers, and how it really supports parents when we're talking about early intervention for students who may need to receive special education services. Now, after you go through all of that, you will see at the bottom assignments. Now, these assignments are things that you have to do or turn in. So you'll see at the top, I put you have to do your proof of liability. Remember, that has to be submitted to your Teams One notebook. Another thing to note is that you have to have your background check, your TBI background check. Now, I do want to make sure that you're aware that if you work at a school system and you're currently employed, and I have sent out emails to several students because last semester you stated and had submitted an employer verification form stating you do work for a school system. If you still work in the current school system or work for a school system, I do need you to email me and contact me so we can look to see um, about getting you that form. Or if you work for the same employer, you may not have to complete a second form. So please reach out if you're unsure or if you have any questions about the background check. So for your assignments, what you're going to be turning in is going to be the discussion, right? So that's what you will complete on the discussion board. You will be watching a video. Okay, so this video is called Child Outcomes Step by Step. So once you complete and watch the video all the way through, I want you to complete these two questions on the discussion board. Now, the answer to these questions are really going to be found in the video, but also throughout the chapters and things that you're reading. And after you respond, please make sure that you are responding to at least two classmates' discussion posts. So that means you're replying to them. The reason we do this is because this is not an in-person course. This is asynchronous. So we want to add that discussion component where you're able to interact with your peers. So I included a rubric for you to see how I'm going to grade you. So how will you be assessed? And one of the criteria in the rubric is going to be, did you reply to your classmates and engage in discussion? So that's something to keep in mind. If you receive a grade back um, and you see that that section is receiving 0 points, that means you didn't reply to at least two classmates. And the last thing is going to be those those ways, excuse me, the way that you can assess your feedback, right? Give feedback to you. How can you assess your own knowledge? So I gave you two things that you can do. The first one is what we call it an IDA note sheet. So this is what you would call review your notes. So this is already set up for you, and this is a really good way for you to kind of test your knowledge of IDA. So you'll see here it says the 6 principles of IDA. And this is just a good way for you to fill in the information of what they are. The second portion is really going to be through the rest of the content for this week, right? So IDA Part B, Part C. What age range do you serve the children for Part B and then for Part C? What is 619 section? Okay, what are the ages for that? Looking at the TEIS Early Intervention System brochure, right? It asks you a question about how many district offices, who can be referred for early, how do you refer a child, who can refer a child for earlier intervention. And then again in the TIS, what is determined for eligibility? So what guidelines do you have to be able to meet to be eligible to receive these services? And then it asks you some more questions here regarding to what the plan is written for, it includes what for an eligible child. So there's a lot of information as review notes for you to help you study. The next thing is going to be really your review games. These review games are really a great way for feedback as well because they can let you test your knowledge. It's a quiz. So what we call them are called Quizlets. So I've created two different Quizlets for you. One of them is matching laws to the description, and the other one is specifically on IDA and the major provisions. So I just wanted to pull one up so you can see what it looks like. So when you click in it, Quizlets are really neat because it allows you to do different self-study activities. So you can have flashcards, you can do the learning activities, you can do the matching activities, you could test your knowledge through a quiz that asks you questions and it mixes it up. So this is a really great way for you to also get feedback. That pretty much covers all of week 3. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm available to meet over the phone. We can set up an in person meeting or even through Teams. So, my job is to try to support you. This content will make more sense because we introduced IDA and the laws last week. So, this is more fluid and it's kind of all coming together. So, hopefully, this week it'll make more sense and you can gain a deeper concept and understanding of IDA. All right, guys. Until next time, take care.